Hello and welcome back to another episode of Outside View Scandals. Today we're diving into one of the most infamous political scandals in recent British history, and that's Partygate. Yes, you heard that right, the parties in Downing Street during the COVID-19 pandemic that somehow managed to breach the very restrictions they put in place for everyone else. While the average citizen was stuck at home, limited to one walk a day, baking bread or trying not to go insane on Zoom calls, their political leaders were, well, let's say, having a slightly different pandemic experience. You know, it's funny how when the government told everyone they couldn't gather with more than 2 households, they forgot to mention that Downing Street apparently counted as 1 household. I mean, who could blame them, right? I'm sure it was just an oversight. Now let's take a little trip down memory lane to those good old pandemic days. Remember when people were fined for having a birthday party in their own home, don't you? And yeah, those were the times when having cake with your family was basically a crime. But if you were a government official, it seems the rule didn't quite apply in the same way. In fact, while the rest of the country was raising a glass on Zoom, Downing Street staff were raising actual glasses at in-person parties. And, you know, there's nothing more essential to running a country than a few rounds of drinks, right? After all, governing a nation during a pandemic must be thirsty work. But, of course, these gatherings weren't parties. No, they were work events. I mean, sure, there were drinks, food, and even some music. But who doesn't need a little background beat to boost productivity during those critical government meetings? Now, here's the best part. They weren't just breaking the rules once. Oh no, Downing Street reportedly hosted at least a dozen such events. It's almost like they were trying to make up for all the cancelled weddings and birthday celebrations across the country. How thoughtful. And let's not forget that while these work events were happening, millions of people were separated from their loved ones, and many couldn't even attend funerals. It's nice to know that at least someone was having a good time, though. And then, when the news finally broke, it wasn't exactly met with open arms. The initial reaction from Downing Street? Deny, deny, deny. After all, if you say something didn't happen enough times, it sort of becomes true, right? Well, maybe not this time. Eventually, it became pretty hard to ignore the evidence. Leaked photos of the parties, staff emails organizing them, and even the occasional video clip. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, except instead of brakes failing, it was moral compasses. When the truth finally came out, we were all reassured that these parties were, in fact, serious work-related events. But who wouldn't believe that a Christmas quiz and wine are essential tools for pandemic crisis management? Oh, and let's not forget about the people tasked with investigating this scandal. First, there was an internal inquiry, because who doesn't love it when people investigate themselves? That's always reliable. Then there was the Sue Gray report, the famous investigation that revealed, shockingly, that parties were indeed held at Downing Street. I know, it's a lot to process. But of course, no scandal would be complete without some good old-fashioned apologies. We got the classic political non-apology. I take full responsibility, but actually it wasn't really my fault. Yeah, that's a classic. In the end, fines were handed out, including to the Prime Minister himself, and that made him the first sitting British PM to be found guilty of breaking the law. Quite the achievement, really. Definitely one for the history books. So what did we learn from all of this? Well, it seems that in times of crisis, some of us stock up on toilet paper and pasta, while others stock up on wine and party hats. And that's the story of Partygate, where the rules didn't apply equally and where work events had a suspicious amount of alcohol involved. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Outside View Scandals. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe, or better yet, throw a work event to celebrate. Until next time, stay scandalous, and the next video is right here in the end screen.